Hello, and thanks for mathing with me today. In this video, we will multiply and divide decimals. When we multiply decimals, we just multiply the two numbers normally and ignore the decimal points at first. And then, when we're writing our answer, we count the number of decimal places that were in each of the factors combined, and we place the decimal point in the answer so that it has the same number of total decimal places as the two factors combined. So in this first example, we have 0.03, and we're multiplying that by 1.1. We don't really have to worry too much about our places being lined up. Our decimal points don't have to be lined up like they were in the addition and subtraction problems. So we're just going to start by multiplying like we normally would. So 3 times 1 is 3, 0 times 1 is 0, and 0 times 1 is 0. And then when we're multiplying by normally our tens place, we're going to put a 0 for the ones place. 3 times 1 is 3, and 0 times 1 is 0, and 0 times 1 is 0. Now we're going to add like we normally would for just a regular multiplication problem, and we get 3 and 3 and 0. We don't have to write the other 0 necessarily. It just depends on the number of places that we're going to need. So now what we want to do is we want to count the total number of places in our initial factors. So we have 1, 2, 3 decimal places in total. So when we're trying to put the decimal place in the proper place in our answer, we want to count 3 decimal places from the right to the left. So our decimal point here in our answer is going to go right there in that creates 3 decimal places for our answer because there were 3 total decimal places in our factors. So we see that 0.03 times 1.1 equals 0.033. Let's try another example together. In number 2, we have negative 4.8 times 4.9. What we want to remember here is that our answer is going to be a negative number. So this can be easy to forget because when we write our multiplication problem, we may not necessarily write negative. Even if we do, we might just forget when we are writing our answer. But negative 4.8 times a positive 4.9 is going to give us a negative product. So I like to write my equals a negative right away just so that I don't forget. Let's add our rows. 2 plus 0 is 2, 3 plus 2 is 5, 4 plus 9 is 13, carry the 1 gives us a 2. Now we want to count the places, the number of places in our factors. So we have 1, 2. So a total of 2 decimal places in our factors, which means that in our product, we want to count over 2 places from the right. So our decimal point is going to be in between the 3 and the 5. So our answer is going to be 23.52, but remember, it's a negative. So it's negative 23.52. Now it's your turn to try some examples on your own. But before you do, there's one more thing that I want to show you. Let's take a look at number 3. In number 3, I have 1.1 times 7.933. Notice that we have a lot more places here, right? There's 4 numbers that we're going to have to multiply. It's much easier to put this number on the top in our multiplication problem and this number on our bottom. It's not going to matter. Your answer is going to be the same, but the process is easier when we have less numbers on the bottom than on the top. So since it doesn't matter which number goes on the top and which number goes on the bottom, we're going to put this number, said the bigger number, or the number with the more digits on the top, and then the number with less digits on the bottom. So just a little trick that helps you set up your problem to make it a little bit easier for yourself. So pause the video now and do numbers 3 and 4 on your own. All right, so hopefully you paused the video and you found that 1.1 times 7.933 is equal to 8.7263. And in number 4, we have a negative 0.3 times a negative 9.1. Remember that a negative times a negative is a positive, so I just set it up as if we were multiplying two positive numbers together, which we get 2.73. The next thing we're going to talk about is dividing decimals. So when we divide decimals, if the divisor, which is the number we're dividing by, is not a whole number, we want to make it a whole number by moving the decimal point to the right however many places it takes to make it a whole number. But then we need to make sure that we move the decimal place in the dividend, the number that we are dividing, that same number of places. So as long as we are moving, basically we're multiplying by the same number, multiple of 10, right? If we're moving the decimal place 1 to the right, we're just multiplying by 10. So remembering that if we multiply the divisor by 10, then we need to multiply the dividend by 10 as well. Once we multiply till we have a whole number in our divisor, then we set up the division problem just like a normal long division problem. And then we'll just divide normally, making sure that our decimal point is in the correct spot in our division problem. All right, I started this problem off video. So notice in number 5, we have a fraction, which remember is just like division. We're just dividing our numerator 5 by our denominator negative 0.4. So if we take 0.4 and we move the decimal place 1 to the right, that means we're multiplying by 10. So if we multiply this by 10, we know we should multiply the numerator by 10 so that we don't change the value of the problem. So if we multiply 5 by 10, we get 50, and if we multiply negative 0.4 by 10, we get negative 4. So now we have our new division problem, 50 divided by negative 4. I set up my answer here so I wouldn't forget my negative again. So anytime we're going to get a negative answer, it's not a bad idea since we're doing our work over here separately, right? We're setting up our division problem 50 divided by 4. We're going to put our decimal place because I know that I'm going to get it's going to be a decimal answer. But I don't want to forget that we have a negative answer. So, all right, 5 divided by 4 is 1. And it goes into 5 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. We subtract, we get a remainder of 1. We bring down the 0. 4 into 10 gives us 2, which gives us 8. 2 times 4 is 8. Don't forget to write your decimal. It goes in the same place right above. So make sure to keep all of your answers lined up correctly so that you don't make errors in your division problem. Now 10 minus 8 is 2. We bring down the 0. 4 into 20 is 5. And then that equals 20. And we get a remainder of 0, so we're going to stop here. Anytime you do get a remainder of 0 in these types of problems, you can just stop. If the answer needs to be in a certain number of places, you can just add zeros as placeholders until you get to the right number of places if you're being asked to write a certain number of places. But we see now that we have 5 divided by negative 0.4 equals negative 12.5. Let's try another one. In the next one, we have 6.6 divided by 2.2. In this one, we can multiply by 10 in both situations, right? If we're dividing by 2.2, we want to divide by 22, which means that we are dividing 66. 6.6 divided by 2.2 is equal to 66 divided by 22. And then this one, we don't really even have to set up a division problem, a long division problem, because I know that 66 divided by 22 is equal to 3. If you didn't know that, you could just think about 22 times 3 equals 66. So there we have it. All right, pause the video and try some problems on your own, number 7 and number 8. Hopefully you paused the video and you were able to notice that in both of these cases, you did not need to move the decimal, right? Because the number that we're dividing by is a whole number. So the only time you need to move the decimal place is when the number that you're dividing by, the number that's on the outside of the division symbol, is a decimal. If you were to multiply till you get write a whole number in both cases, you could still do the problem and it would still give you the same answer. You just are dealing with larger numbers. So as long as this number here on the outside is a whole number, you can leave it, right? So notice that I just put 3.1 divided by 15, and then I ended up having to add some zeros because we got to the situation where we needed more information, right? We needed more. So when I got to 6 here, if I want to round to the thousandths place, I need to know what this number is. So if we were rounding, the answer would be 0.207. In this case, I just wrote it as a repeating decimal because I saw that there was a pattern that was going to repeat, and it was going to continually repeat forever and ever and ever. Okay? So in number 8, again, we did not have to multiply because we already had a whole number. 1.9 divided by 2 is 0.95. I hope in this video you learned a little bit about multiplying and dividing decimals, and I hope it was helpful. Thanks so much for mathing with me today.